Welcome to Three, a show about Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, and part of the Tennis Channel podcast network. I'm Gil Gross with Joel Drucker and Amy Lundy. Rafael Nadal is out early by his standards at Madrid. He lost to Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals. Otherwise, we would probably not be recording today, and we'd wait until the Nadal result is in. But now that it's in, we are good to go. And the Rome draw came out just hours ago, so we'll hit on that. Novak Djokovic back in action in Rome next week. So let's start with this straight set loss that Nadal suffered to Zverev. It's now 3 straight losses to Alexander Zverev for Rafa after winning the first 5 of their head-to-head. So I want to just start by asking about that matchup. It's becoming almost a problem for Nadal in some ways. What do you see in that, Amy?
I don't think it's much of a problem. The focus is really the slams, as we've said, for our 3 at this point. That said, we know that the Madrid conditions and surface is a little bit different than the other clay court surfaces. So in some ways, I think it's kind of an outlier. The thing that I noticed about the match, and Gil, you got me thinking on this train of thought about how you had a coach that said disrupt the other person's contact point. Rafa didn't do that against Zverev in this match. His Zverev's strike zone, his contact point was exactly where Rafa was hitting it. So he was basically not disrupting and making Zverev very comfortable. And after the match, Rafa said that everything kind of hinged on Zverev's serve, which we know that he has struggled with double faults, and he just didn't really. His serve was on, and he served very well for the match, and that made the difference.
Yeah, there are a couple things there. Joel, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, Zverev looked very comfortable in that match. I mean, he was, again, I think Amy was talking about the contact point, and again, Madrid, just over 2,000 feet. So, but Zverev, pretty tall, and he just seemed really well grooved. So, yeah, he didn't quite seem as hindered by anything Nadal was throwing at him. Nadal a little frustrated at times, a little more than usual. So, that was surprising. But again, Zverev has played well against Nadal. And of course, as we look towards Paris, we all see, because then we all think about, Nadal, best of 5. Format.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think is important about in regards to the matchup itself. The 2 previous losses came on indoor hard court, and Madrid is an outdoor tournament. But look at the architecture of that place. It's closed off. And what I wrote on Twitter, just because you open the sunroof doesn't mean you're driving a convertible. And that works in a couple of ways in Madrid. Yes, you have the altitude, but we've seen servers have so much success this week and really historically because I don't think there's any wind in there. I think the conditions are completely serene. And then you think about, well, not only does Zverev and his unbelievably high toss enjoy those indoor conditions, he always double faults less inside. But also, if you look at Nadal, well, he's been great on all surfaces. The only conditions that have actually really put a dent into his win percentage is when you put a roof on the place indoors. So we talk about all of these things working against him with Madrid. And I would have to side with you, Amy, that I don't think that this loss is, oh no, like Nadal can't figure out the Zverev puzzle, because I think all 3 were sort of indoor conditions.
Now, keeping in mind, I think Rafa has won Madrid 5 times, right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
it's funny that you said that, because Isner, who does well at Madrid and did well this week, said that he really likes the conditions there and he loves the sound, the pop. It's almost like an indoor echoey kind of thing, and it almost puts fear into his opponents. So you're right. It does play like a quasi indoor situation.
Right. So that minimizes Nadal's asset, because if you went, let's say, the complete across the spectrum, and you say like playing Nadal on a windy day outdoors is great for Nadal. And so in other words, Nadal's some of his superpowers are blunted when he goes in this quasi indoor. And so a guy like Sasha or an Isner is going to feel more comfortable. Yeah, and you guys play indoors a lot more than me, so you're a lot more familiar with that feeling and sound when you're playing indoors, of comfort and the auditory feel, and you just get kind of in this groove that's very different than when you're outdoors and exposed to the elements and all the other factors. So again, that's a great effort for Zverev. I mean, beating Nadal on clay is always going to be a great accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely not. And not to take anything away from Zverev, to say that the conditions help him, that's not to say that he didn't put in an incredible performance. But I agree with you, Joel, that it's really less so. There are factors with Nadal, but I want to kind of get into that more. So if someone were to ask you, why is Nadal worse indoors, you might say, well, he's not worse, his opponents are better. Is that kind of what I'm getting?
Yes. See, I think the point is that Nadal's assets are not as present, and yeah, you're right. The opponents feel more comfortable. The opponents are less subject. It's not that Nadal is worse. It's just that his stuff does better. I mean, it makes you think of maybe baseball with certain pitchers, let's say pitching in Colorado,
Yeah.
and the things that are going to affect, so the hitters will feel more comfortable. So you feel, and we know tennis is a game not just of confidence, but of technical sustainability. And so if you're someone like Sasha Zverev, it's like, wow, I can do this again and again, and I'm getting the reinforcements, even at the highest level where their technique is so good, and that really helps. And you could just see from seeing that match how comfortable he was feeling, rally after rally. Hey, the Nadal's it's not hurting me the way it does as much. I'm making this good contact, and I'm just continually applying pressure.
I think playing indoors really spoils you rotten. I mean, everything is equalized, even right down to the temperature, the bounce is true. And then you get outdoors, and I play indoors a lot because I live in the Northeast, but you get outdoors and it's like, oh, the sun, the wind, the bugs, stop it, stop it. Well, we all know that Nadal is pretty much the least spoiled brat person in tennis, right? Like he's just like, no, doesn't bother me, gonna go. So anyone who is bothered by any kind of outdoor condition would be disadvantaged playing Nadal typically.
Well, that's right. Like I talked about, like the extreme would be, say, a windy day, and it's funny. And I've hardly played indoors. I've enjoyed it, but I find as a recreational player, I like playing outdoors more, and I like playing in wind. And I said to a friend once, I said, "Why do you like playing in the wind?" I go, "Because you don't."
Perfect answer.
Yeah.
And so I think those stuff is all. This gets to the genius of Nadal, which is attitudinal. That's why I think of our three, he's the greatest master, though Novak, the greatest master of the intangibles.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest
Right.
master, like wind, yeah, okay, sure. A crosswind, humidity, all these things. And we talked about this in the prior episode about the training from Uncle Tony,
Yes.
the attitudinal training.
Yep. I was gonna tease that as well, Joel, because one of the anecdotes is that Tony made him play on shoddy courts with bad balls just to make sure that Rafa had a good attitude. So check that out if you haven't. We talked about Uncle Tony and Rafa, that relationship, on the last
Can I
episode.
add something to that? I almost have in my mind, we had so much good Tony stuff. I could almost imagine writing a theater play of Tony and young Rafa, and you could just see like a situation like the wind and Rafa walking on. Tony says, "Who do you think you are that you're superior to the wind and nature?" You can just imagine the Tony lines of dialogue. Why should you think you're superior to nature, what nature's brought us today? Deal with it. Deal with it. And so then to bring it back to Madrid, these external factors aren't as present. It's like what Amy said. It's kind of, let's get right back to the hermetically sealed box.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our little thing on we did why is Nadal not as good indoors? See, we didn't think we were going to go there, but I'm telling you, Madrid, I mean, you look at the architecture, you look at the results, it really is consistent with an indoor tournament. But if I want to zoom in on Nadal's performance specifically, what stood out to me, and it does go back to what you were saying about the contact point, Amy, but for me, especially present on Nadal's first serve points, and he won 62%. Zverev, his serve is always going to be big. That's a constant. So I thought it was interesting that Nadal said, well, it was about Zverev's serve, because I didn't think Zverev's serve was so untouchably outstanding. I just thought Nadal's serve, on the contrary, wasn't. And when Zverev was landing his returns, Nadal didn't have that death grip that he normally has. When you let him hit 3 forehands in a row on clay, you're normally dead, and that's it. That's your death sentence. But in this match, Zverev was neutralizing rather easily because Nadal's forehand was not being hit close enough to the lines with enough confidence, with enough conviction or depth. And there was no first strike tennis. Whenever the return was in play, Zverev got back to neutral.
The commentators made mention that the depth was not there on his forehand, that they were landing, a little bit past the service line. So, something to watch, but he is the master of making adjustments to things like spin, depth, ball height, the width of the court. He'll figure it out.
What would it take for you to be concerned about Nadal heading into Roland Garros? Anything? Is it possible?
No, because again, I've done the research on the different seasons that he's had where he's just torn through the clay season and won everything and then gone on to win, or won very little and had a terrible clay season and gone on to win.
His
So
terrible,
I don't get concerned.
but his terrible, a terrible clay season for him has always been, except for last fall, at least winning a tournament. So it's
Yes.
not. So
Yes.
that's like a
Yes.
baseball hitter. Yeah,
But he's gone out early in others where he's won, Barcelona or whatever. He may have gone out early in another, and everybody's always shocked, and then he just goes on to win Roland Garros.
He's already won his tournament also. He won Barcelona.
Yes.
I think the deep concern would be an injury, and an injury, no tournament titles, less than 5 matches played. That would become a yellow warning, a yellow light. That would become if that happens. Let's see, I think Nadal will be about 52 years old when that happens. When that happens, then I think that would be kind of interesting. That's like, otherwise, again, he's always, to use baseball again, he's always hit at least 300 prior to Roland Garros, and then at Roland Garros he ends up hitting 360. Mm-hmm. So that would be the concern for me. That would be the factors that would add up to a concern about less than 5 matches played, no tournament titles, and injury.
So he's already cleared that bar. I'll say this. I will be concerned if the serve doesn't start to look better at some point, because I thought even when he won Barcelona, the serve was not good, and he just won the tournament in spite of it. And once again, the serve was a problem here. And I'm just the clock is ticking a little bit for me. It hasn't even close to struck midnight yet. But in Monte Carlo with the Rublev match, the serve was really, really bad, and it's gotten better, but I was kind of waiting for that problem to just go away, and it hasn't yet, which has surprised me. So that would be my answer. Fair
enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. And let's look at second serve points won, because that's where he typically dominates. So it's got to be down this clay season.
Yeah. Again, the first serve points won was 62%. That's where his second serve points won is sometimes, right, Amy?
I mean, exactly.
It would be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see every 3 years, let's say some of the other guys who do well on clay, and see their playing styles, and you see the emergence of increasing amounts of power, increasing amounts of flat ball hitting, serving. I mean, you look at people like Zverev and Kertsev, and the way, and you would compare them to, let's say we went back 15 years to Nalbandian and then Burdick and other players who were contenders in the clay season, and you see how the styles get better and better, and you see how much the three have raised the bar and said, okay, this is the type, these are the tools you need if you're to topple us. And you see the increased physicality, the height. I mean, plenty of players now over 6'4". I mean, so then this contact point stuff starts to alter a little bit. Very interesting.
Yep. Casper Ruud, Matteo Berrettini, just massive racket head acceleration on their forehand, just like Nadal.
Right.
I mean, so yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure we'll talk about that more in the future. But let's get to this Rome draw. Novak Djokovic is returning to the courts in Rome, and second round match, because he's got a bye in the first round, could be a rematch against Dan Evans, the man who beat him in Monte Carlo with his patented backhand slice, which he, for the most part, hit cross court. So I'd be excited to see that again. And then, by the way, the highest seed in Djokovic's quarter is Stefanos Tsitsipas, who is probably the second best player on clay right now after Nadal, and Novak has a chance, going off results at the very least, and Novak has a chance to have a crack at Tsitsipas, which should be a pretty good barometer, because Rome, unlike Madrid, tends to show us what to expect in Paris a little bit more. Dan Evans, I want to ask about that Dan Evans round 2. And I understand it might not happen. Taylor Fritz is his first round opponent. So that's a match that is by no means a shoo-in for Evans. But if Dan is going to do that again and cross-court slice every time he gets a backhand, what should Novak do?
Well, Novak against a guy like Evans, I think a lot of that revolves around attacking, eventually getting to net. Because the person who's doing that slice, it's a clever play. I know, because I know how to do that too. It's a disruptive thing. You get him missing, you get into his confidence a little. I think Novak needs to come to net more and say, okay, pass me, and then maybe redirect the rally, hit his backhand down the line, and say, okay, Dan, now go cross court with your forehand, and just Novak was a little stuck in the clay in Monte Carlo. Didn't it look that way? Like he was a little like. Early match and not a lot of confidence and
off balance.
Yeah, not a lot of competitive fortitude as he usually shows. Not quite as sharp as he usually is.
I just thought that the way this draw shook out was interesting. So you got Novak at the top and you got Rafa at the bottom, and in their quarters are some of the hottest players right now. Like, I think Novak has Berrettini and Basilashvili in his quarter. I mean, these guys are playing great on clay right now. And then the big names who traditionally play well on clay, like Schwartzman or Goffin, they're in the middle. So, and then Rafa got, I think, Casper Ruud in his quarter, and Sinner and Zverev. So, if I'm right about this. So it's interesting how the rankings lag behind who is hot right now. And the toughest quarters are Novak's and Rafa's.
Well, the rankings, we're going to spend a while. It's going to take a while for these rankings, given how they've been structured amid the pandemic, for things to reflect. It's kind of like a market evaluation, or not a correction. So this is the ranking system, but it's a carry. It's a long time carry, unlike prior years. But in a way, from the lower ranked player's standpoint, it's kind of intriguing. It's like, I know I'm playing well. I know I'm actually playing at numbers. I'm actually should be 6, but the ranking shows I'm 14, and they're trying to keep. But for the great players, I don't think it means really much at all. Like, I don't think Novak is thinking, I got to look ahead, and there's Tsitsipas, and he's playing well. And so he gets it, but I think it's like the task in front of me. And it's kind of actually almost a good thing for Novak that he may play the guy. I get to now play the guy who beat me recently.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's good prep. Yeah, for the slams.
The barometer yet again of like, here I am. Oh, yeah, this guy got me a few weeks ago. Now I get him again. There I am. Let's deal with him. And again, Fritz and Evans, that's pretty much a pick 'em. I don't heavily favor either in that match. And remember, Fritz was the guy who extended Novak to 5 sets in Australia. So that's a long time ago, and it's a different surface. But I think what we want to see, I think we'd all like to see Evans and Novak play one another again. But the other stuff, down the road in a draw, particularly if you're a top player like a Novak, Rafa, Roger, Rod Laver. They're just looking at the next match in front of them.
Yeah, but
that's true. But Nadal may have to play Zverev again in the quarters. I mean,
Great.
that's good. I think
yeah,
that's
it's
good.
good. It's good, but he better win. It's like
you know what? That's good too. So, but again, I don't think Nadal is even thinking that he might play.
No, probably not. We're thinking that. We as fans are thinking that.
Well, but I think again, I have my whole this draw casting stuff is it's kind of it's so next Friday.
Well, first of all, I think Joel is right. You want to play the player who just beat you. You want him again. This is true in combat sports. After you get knocked out, you go to the promoter and you say, "Give me a rematch." That was they got lucky, right? So that's kind of there's not as no tennis players are saying the other guy got lucky, but you get the point. You want to play him again. So I think it's good that Zverev is in Nadal's quarter. I think it's good that Djokovic could have another shot at Dan Evans. And, I think you'd expect Novak to just be in a better place for that rematch. But where I will disagree is I think I don't think it matters if Novak is looking ahead to a guy like Nicholas Basilashvili, right? It's just that Basilashvili is someone who is super dangerous right now with the way he plays. So
is Berrettini.
Berrettini might be tired though.
It's interesting that those two guys have to play each other in the first round. They both won recently.
Yeah, well, that speaks to the whole kind of, how would we call it, ranking congestion.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if Berrettini, because he's got his hometown tournament next week and he's in the Madrid semifinals. Is it almost like a look ahead spot? Like, is it hard to focus on kind of trying to run through the finish line at Madrid when you have what's really the biggest tournament on your calendar coming up in a couple of days?
I think I would tell my coaches, don't even tell me who I play in that tournament. I'm going to turn off social media. I don't even want to know.
Yeah, but I think if he does know, I don't think it's if it's hard, then it's kind of like it shouldn't be hard. It's just you just go deal with a match. I mean, the blinders that exist, even if you know that you're going to be playing this guy on Tuesday, it's like, okay, I've got a match in front of me. And it's so, semis, Madrid, big match. Berrettini's been around for a while. God, what an impressive player he is when he's playing well. And you see, again, as we were saying, the bar raised by the three has said, this is how you need to play if you want to win in the 2020s. I mean, these are the type of tools you need to bring. I mean, we're talking some major racket head speed going on here.
Yeah, his game has looked so big all week in the altitude and with the clay court bounce. It's just been this amazing combination. We're also going to get Thiem and Zverev today, recording before the semifinals in Madrid. Let's see. So Djokovic, we could get a potential Djokovic Tsitsipas in the quarters and a potential Nadal Zverev in the quarters. That's what would happen if the seeds hold. The last one that we haven't hit on is Sinner Nadal. And then we'll wrap up, because we thought we'd get that in Madrid, and Sinner lost to Alexei Popyrin, an Australian who's so dangerous when he's landing the balls in the court because he's got so much firepower. But they're gonna give that another try. The draw gods are gonna attempt to make that again. If Sinner can get through Hugo Humbert, we could see that again. That's a matchup that I don't know if we talked about it prior to Madrid, but something that people will look forward to.
Well, Sinner, of course, is the prospect. He got to the quarters of Roland Garros last fall. And I think, though, he's getting used to what it means to be a big-time pro player. I mean, playing lots of matches, going from city to city, dealing with pressure and expectation. All of that is kind of in factor in his life. It's a little bit, the person who came to mind also is Coco Gauff. It's kind of like the precocious next great thing, and doing this also amid the pandemic and these stresses. So it's going to be interesting to see how Sinner continues to evolve. I mean, he's great. He's fantastic. But again, he's had this is a big new world for him.
And this will be his hometown, I don't know if he's from Rome, but his home country tournament. So, and you're playing Nadal potentially. Although Humbert is he's been playing. He's had some good wins too. So let's not put the cart before the horse. But yeah, if that matchup does happen, we'll see what this young guy's made of.
It's amazing. Nadal plays Alcaraz in Spain and then Sinner in Italy in the second round. It's kind of he's like facing those young phenoms in their home countries twice in a row. So we'll look forward to that following Rome, wrapping up Madrid. That'll do it for this episode of 3. Remember, we're available on all podcast platforms. Definitely subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating and a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, comment, subscribe there as well. We will see you next time on the next episode of 3.